Hello, my name is Rudy Staedler, and I'm a former member and director of the NCGA. My term in office was 1983 to 1986. And at that time, we were all working on the planning and development and construction of Poppy Hills Golf Course. There was a golf course committee, and I was put on that committee. And later in '86, Poppy Holding was formed, and I was a member of Poppy Holding until 1995. I was one of several guys that worked really hard to make Poppy Hills come to fruition. Um, there are some guys I'd like to mention. Unfortunately, they're not any longer with us, but the president at the time was Charlie McFarland from Santa Rosa, and then some very instrumental players in getting this approved included Fran Watson Jr. From Orinda. Fran's father was one of the founders of the Spyglass Hill Golf Club back in 1966. So his son, working on Poppy Hills, which came to fruition in 1986, was just an amazing feat. Other people that had a major hand in getting Poppy Hills built was primarily John Zoller, who was the executive director for a number of years. And John actually coordinated and helped plan the golf course with the Robert Trent Jones organization. Very instrumental. Without John, I'm not sure this project would have got built. Others that had major hand in it also included Paul Pugh, a CPA from the San Jose area, Bob Moore, an attorney and businessman from the South Bay, Gordon Scott from the Central Valley, Jack Elliott from Claremont up in the East Bay, Joe Zablocki, a former past president also from San Francisco, Frank Brunk, also from the East Bay, and Judge Hugh Evans from Sacramento area. All of those people played a major part in getting Poppy Hills built, which was started, my recollection is, in early '85, and it opened on June 1st, 1986. It was scheduled to be opened in October of '86, but the opening was rushed because the NCGA had run out of money for the construction and grow-in period. They had borrowed the maximum they could borrow, and so Poppy Hills opened on somewhat thin grass on that day and was an immediate and huge success. Opening day ceremonies, of course, included Robert Trent Jones Jr., his chief designer and field man on the construction was Don Knott, along with Bruce Charlton, and of course, our own Steve Schrader was involved because he was part of the Jones organization at that time. I don't remember anything special about opening day other than it was a huge success, and Poppy Hills took off after that to be a continuing success and to be the hallmark of the NCGA organization. A point of individual pride and group pride by the NCGA was that we were the first amateur golf organization in the country to build and operate our own golf course, beating the SCGA, who long talked about doing a very similar thing and had indicated to us that they were going to have a golf course in operation long before we did. We always got the last laugh on that. So,
were members excited when the course opened?
Members were amazed. And the reason they were amazed was that the NCGA, in order to pay for the land at Poppy Hills, instituted about 1978 a $4 surcharge on the dues, which were as I recall, $21 at the time. And this $4 surcharge was very well known what the purpose was for, which was to build the golf course. So we had years of anticipation of the golf course being built. And the member rates were extremely reasonable in those days. I'm not exactly sure, but I think in 1986 they were $50 for a member to play, including a cart. So,
and another question that just crossed my mind: when all this was being put together, Poppy Hills, the NCGA at the time was still over at Spyglass.
it was, because that's a good point, because the office building and the clubhouse were built at the same time. And, to ring my own bell, I was in charge of the construction oversight for the buildings here, the office building and the clubhouse. And I believe the NCGA staff at that time was either 4 or 5 people. And the other thing that amazed me is, at the time, I think the tournament days for the organization was on the neighborhood of 130 tournament days or so. And so one of the purposes that we often talked about was that Poppy Hills could become the home for many of its tournaments. Because even in those days, the NCGA board was experiencing and staff was experiencing difficulty in securing golf courses for events at that time. So Poppy Hills was seen as somewhat of a savior for that.
Rudy, being your involvement in the 1980s and going all the way back to basically when the NCGA offices were over at Spyglass Hill, how do you, in your eyes, see the progression and the growth of the NCGA as to what it's become today?
Well, I think Poppy Hills had a major part in that, because, like most organizations, we were trying to grow the membership. And although we offered the basic services that we still offer today through the NCGA, the golf course was such a catalyst in growing the membership. And in my time on the board, as I recall, we went from like 40,000 members in the NCGA to over 100,000 during that period. And I attribute that mostly to the golf course.
I guess since we're celebrating our 125th anniversary this year, and you've been an integral part of it, how was it like coming back here to kind of like the course that you kind of had your hands on, and have you seen kind of the organization grow since your career with the NCGA?
Well, to this day, I still play Poppy Hills occasionally, and I love playing it. I think it's a fantastic course. I'm in the golf course business myself, and I especially like the remodeling that was done by the Jones organization, some 10 years ago now or so.
Yeah.
So I always enjoy coming back. And of course, the Monterey the Del Monte Forest and the Monterey area is such a great area for golf. I had the privilege also of being a member at Spyglass Hill. So the transition from Spyglass, along with the staff from Spyglass, Bob Hanna and the original staff members that moved to Monterey from San Francisco back in the 60s, were still around. So that tradition and history continued on here at Poppy Hills, and it's just a wonderful place. I always enjoy coming here.